Have you ever bought a middle of the road or entry level piece of equipment and thought, I should have saved up. I should have just got the best of the best? Of course you have. We all have. But what if I told you in some cases, you actually bought the better sounding, more reliable piece of equipment? I mean, there's something to be said about simplicity. This is something that professional musicians, audio engineers have known for a long time. The more complicated the circuit, the more complicated the piece of equipment, the more likelihood of a failure or a drift in one of those components. There's even more of a chance of degrading the audio signal. Sometimes less is better. It doesn't mean this is always true, but a lot of times the entry level is better than the flagship, or better and more reliable than the pieces above it. And I've said it before, and I still believe it today. For the most part with turntables, the simpler, the better. It doesn't matter if it's a belt drive or a direct drive. Usually the entry-level turntables for most manufacturers, there were no bells and whistles, no auto return, no fully automatic features. You place the tone arm, you return the tone arm. And by design, the simplicity of a manual turntable just cuts down on so many possibilities for all those extra parts that are needed for an automatic turntable to fail. When you look inside of some of these automatic turntables, it almost looks like a Swiss watch on steroids. There's extra motors, extra gears. Those creature comforts with a turntable come at a price. They're going to need serviced more, and when they do need serviced, it's going to be way more expensive if the parts are even available. All those really nice automatic turntables from the 70s and 80s are really starting to show their age because of the plastic gearing. They're getting worn down, cracked, brittle. It's a problem. A lot of you in the mid-70s probably went out to go pick up a new Pioneer or Technics turntable. You might have been looking at a PL112D or an entry-level Technics and thought, I wish I had the money for a PL530 or 570, or possibly even the record-changing or stacking functions of the Technics 1650. Fast forward to today, most likely since you did buy the 112D, it's probably still working. If you bought the Pioneer PL530 or the Technics 1650 and it's still working, you should consider yourself very lucky. You want an indestructible turntable, a really good sounding turntable? Look at the Acoustic Research XA or XB. They are so simple by design. It's almost like they went straight from the Flintstones turntable straight to the ARXA. And they sound incredible. There's nothing to go wrong. If you found yourself stereo shopping in the mid-70s, you might have walked into the mall, you might have seen that Harman Kardon 930 twin-powered receiver sitting there for $480 and thought, man, I wish I had more money. You hadn't received that big raise or promotion at Wally Burger. You went with the 330 for $200, and in my opinion, you made the right choice. Don't get me wrong, the 930 is no slouch. It's a great receiver, but at half the price, there's something special about the 330, especially the C. They're so simple. They're so easy to work on. They're so easy to listen to. And I do believe it is the ultimate underdog of the 70s. With only 20 watts per channel, that 330 from Harman Kardon hits so far above its weight. It is so fun to see people's eyes get huge when they're listening to a 330 and you tell them it's only 20 watts per channel. I do think this is one of those situations where what you're putting into the Harman Kardon 330 is what you're getting out. It's such a simple design. Just looking on the inside of a 330, you can tell there's nothing mucking up your audio. It's a perfect receiver. It really is. And in a lot of ways, that Harman Kardon 330 changed my life. That was the receiver that bit me, that started my whole vintage audio journey. I couldn't believe how great that little receiver sounded, and it started all this. Let's talk about the Marantz 2215 and the 2270. In the early 70s, I can see why so many people coveted the 2270. At the time, 70 watts per channel in a receiver coupled with those incredible looks that are still sought after today, I can see how that receiver had every kid mowing extra lawns, flipping more burgers in order to pay for it. And with an MSRP of $550, a lot of you probably didn't make it. A lot of you probably just broke down and said, I'm going to be okay with the 2215. And to a lot of diehards in the Marantz community, people that own several pieces from this line, they will all tell you you made the better purchase. To me and a lot of other people, there's something really special about those entry-level Marantz with their small watts, their extremely simple designs. This is another receiver that hits way above its weight. That 15 watt per channel rating is honestly kind of a joke. You put a 2215 in front of a 90 plus dB efficient set of speakers, you got plenty of power. And I'm not bagging on the sound of a 2270. They do sound great, but there's just something a little bit more special about the 2215, the 2220, the small little simple units from Marantz that are just a little bit better, at least to me anyway. We hear the same thing from customers all the time, especially the Marantz diehards, and there's a lot of you out there. And this mindset also applies to speakers, very much so. I know the majority of the viewers out there really love their L100s from JBL, and I do too. I think they're great. I mean, they are tanks. You can't kill those things. I get it. But the JBL L16 Decades, the L26s, the entry level, further down the line speakers are actually better sounding speakers. And that's just my personal opinion, but I don't think I'm alone in that either. In the mid 70s, the JBL L100 was so iconic. The amount of you guys out there lusting over a pair of L100s is legitimate. I get it. They are built like tanks. You can't kill them. If I was older in the mid 70s, I would have wanted the L100s too. No question. But for those of you out there that couldn't afford that high price tag for the L100s, you might have picked up a pair of L16 Decades or L26s. And in this case, in my opinion, you got a better sounding speaker. These little two-way bookshelf speakers from JBL, I think are a way more balanced speaker. They're just as robust as the L100. I just think they are way more capable of playing all types of music. They are less fatiguing, and I honestly think this is the sweet spot of that series. I am definitely not the only one that thinks this, because when you see the prices of L16s, L26s, they are in demand. People usually don't sell them. We don't see them very often. And when we do, when they're out on the floor and people are auditioning them, they sell instantly. So for those of you out there that had to buy the Pinto instead of the Mustang, or you had to pick up the L16s instead of the L100s, I think you did okay. I mean, you can still get a 302 into a Pinto. I've seen it. My Mustang 302 actually got beat by a Pinto with a 302 in it. I was pissed. Don't be fooled by the Pinto, and don't be fooled by the L16. And I'm going to get heat for this one, because every time I talk about the Sansui 9090dB, the diehards come out of the woodwork and talk about how easy they are to repair, or how easy it is to bypass that board. And that is the exact opposite of what every technician I know tells me. So if it's easy for you, good on you. Start a website called 9090dB Repair. You'll be rich. And I get it. I love this receiver. It's one of the first monster receivers. Actually, it is the first monster receiver over 100 watts per channel I ever owned. And I drove an hour away to get it. And I had to have the Dolby board bypassed. The technician I gave it to, smart guy, capable guy, said, I think I can bypass it. You're not going to use it anyway. And I gave him the go ahead. At an 125 watts per channel, and the looks of the 9090dB, maybe one of the best looking receivers from the 70s period. I get it. I understand why everybody wanted one. I get why they still do. But in all honesty, I'd take that 50/50 over that 9090dB any day. I think they sound just as good. They're way easier to work on. The 50/50 has plenty of power for me with 30 watts per channel. More than likely, if you bought a 50/50 brand new, it might be still working today. The 9090 DB, on the other hand, we all know the issues with that. I don't need to beat a dead horse. You're wanting a piece of Sansui from this era. Do not overlook the 5050. You won't regret it. It is an amazing sounding receiver, and it's not going to drain your wallet with repairs. The MSRP of the 5050 was $250, and the MSRP of the 9090 was $900. If minimum wage was $1.50 back then, you're flipping a lot of burgers. You're mowing a lot of lawns. And for the DB diehards out there that get really upset when I mention this issue, I don't see why letting potential buyers know that there is a major issue with these. The value of the 9090 DB is not going down. I don't think you have to worry about people dumping them. It's an iconic receiver. It's just got a big issue. And I think those receivers further down the line sound just as good, look just as good. And picking on another legend is the Pioneer SX1010. This is an amazing series, one of my favorites, known as the X3X series. And with the 1010 being the first receiver to break the 100 watts per channel, giving it legendary status in the vintage audio world and essentially starting the Watt Wars, I'm not bagging on it. But there is an issue with this era. Starting from the 838, the 939, and the 1010, you've got those push button input selectors, pads, loudness buttons, and they are getting to be a problem. This is one of those receivers that when people come into the shop, they're looking at an 838, 939, or 1010. I'll ask them, what is your OCD level? If you're looking for a vintage receiver that performs like new, which is almost impossible, I definitely wouldn't recommend one of these receivers. They are notorious, even after cleaned, to have dropouts. You might have to push it in, give it a little wiggle in order for both channels to pop in. These switches are over 50 years old and they're showing their age. This is becoming one of the biggest struggles with vintage electronics from this era, from all manufacturers. We can get capacitors, resistors, most of the transistors, brand new. Switches, volume pots, those are becoming a problem. And because most of these switches and pots are kind of unique to each specific piece, remanufacturing them is going to be an issue, especially if it's going to be cost effective. On the other hand, for those of you out there that bought the 434 or the 535, there's a really good chance that it's still working today untouched. These are super simple. There's not a lot of switches. They sound incredible. I love this era of Pioneer, and I do think that 434 sounds just as good as that 1010. That 1010 has a lot of bragging rights, but it also comes at the cost of those switches that are becoming an issue. And I know there's going to be some viewers out there that are going to be screaming about, but headroom, Kevin, headroom. And I get it. I do get it. And that's just something you need to decide for yourself. Is the extra headroom worth the hassle? Because for most of us, we're never going to get past 15 or 20 watts anyway. And if we don't care about bragging rights, the SX434 was probably the right choice. You probably had more money for beer and more time to hang out with your buddies because you weren't mowing all those lawns. And in all honesty, all of these pieces were exceptional. None of them were lemons. Most of them exceeded their use life by a long shot. We have seen several of these pieces come into the shop, unserviced and still working today. So I'm not bagging on any of them. Maybe the 9090 just a little. But if you're one of the people that bought one of these pieces of equipment brand new in the 70s, and maybe you've spent the last 50 years wondering if you should have bought up, you should have gone for the flagship, you should have mowed more lawns for that bigger, better piece of equipment, maybe you can put your mind at ease that you actually bought the better piece. It's still the same today. And I am guilty of FOMO just as much as everybody else. There's nothing worse than buying something and going, I should have waited. I should have saved just a little bit longer, got the extra bells and whistles, got the more power. What if it sounds that much better? Those what ifs will haunt me. It'll keep me up at night, and it's kind of ridiculous. But to try and count all the things that I've done in retrospect that were just ridiculous would take forever. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to buy something and wonder if I should have saved, if I should have waited to buy the better piece. It's going to happen. It's going to happen every time. Definitely let us know in the comments. Have you experienced this? Have you ever bought something, been really happy with it, decided to sell it or trade it in for the bigger, better, stronger, faster, more, and were disappointed? Appreciate you watching another video. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next Sunday. Thanks. And if you like this video, you should definitely watch this one.